Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about multi-homing. The multi-homing is the fact that one Asana task can actually be in several projects at the same time. So first I want to show you an example and then I'm going to talk about the benefits and the problems with that kind of implementation. So let's say you are an event company, you organize events for clients. For example, you were tasked to organize a dinner for the Super Bowl on Saturday for the Adidas client. So you probably have a main event list inside Asana. So let's create the Super Bowl Saturday night, Super Bowl 2020 Saturday, and that's the Adidas dinner. So you probably have one single project to host all the events, but you might also want to have a Super Bowl project in which you have all the events related to the Super Bowl. So what you can do is you can actually multi-home this specific task into the Super Bowl project. So to do that, you can use the Tab P shortcut on your keyboard, and you can also click on the plus button next to the current project of the task. So if I click there and I'm looking for Super Bowl, I can see the Super Bowl event there. So you can see that the task is part of two different projects. That's exactly the same task, but living in two different projects. So if I'm going to the Super Bowl project, I can see my event there. But you can actually keep going. For example, this is an event for Adidas, and maybe you have a project for Adidas in which you have all the information for that client. So you can add the task inside the client project as well. So you can multi-home it inside the Adidas project, and you can actually select a section. For example, events. And if I'm going to the Adidas project, you can see that I have all the invoices for that client. They can be multi-home inside an invoice project. I have the photo shoots. They should also be multi-homed inside a photo shoot project. And I have the event section in which I have all the events for that client. And one last example on how to use multi-homing, maybe personally, as a manager, I have a project with everything that's at risk or anything I need to have a look at. I have a project called At Risk. So you can actually multi-home this inside your At Risk project. If the project is personal and private, nobody's going to see that this task is part of the At Risk project. So again, this is the same task, several projects. So the benefits of this is you have everything at the same location. So one single task on the right, you have all the information there. The second thing is you don't have any duplicates. You don't have to duplicate the task, and because you don't have to do that, it's always in sync. In all the projects, the same task is always in sync with itself. It's always the same task. And the last benefit is the task will inherit every single custom field from every project it's part of. So any project that has custom fields, it will be given to the task, so the task will end up with several custom fields. Now, what are the problems with this? The first one is any interaction you have with the task will impact every single project. So for example, if you complete the task, then it will be completed everywhere. And sometimes some projects you don't want to complete tasks, maybe you just want to unassign them, and sometimes you want to complete the task, so it might make things a little bit complicated. The second problem is the task name needs to make sense in every single project. So for example, inside the event, inside the Super Bowl, you could call it the Saturday Adidas dinner, but then if you go inside the event list, you don't understand that it relates to the Super Bowl. And if you go to the Adidas project, if you don't have the Super Bowl in there, it might be complicated to understand. And you could, one of the possibilities is to add the fields, the project fields, so you are able to see all the project it's part of. It's one of the possibilities, but as you can see, it's very small. So it's not very easy to see all the project it's part of. So the name of the task usually will have to include every single details of every single project. But I still think that's very, very powerful. I use it a lot for clients, for invoicing, for the sessions I have with the clients, and I see a lot of my clients using it for the photo shoots, the events and everything else. So it's a very powerful feature and you should really learn how to use it. Bye.